the stream. Must-see TV shows throughout the ages.
What if I told you that the most expensive television series ever produced in Britain at the time, a show with visuals meant to rival 2001: A Space Odyssey, was almost completely derailed by a single, tiny mechanical flaw, a piece of equipment worth maybe a few dollars?
That sounds impossible. You're talking about Space, 1999. A show that, for all its grand ambition, seemed cursed from the start. The core idea is already wild. On September 13, 1999, nuclear waste stored on the moon detonates, acting like a giant rocket engine that blasts the entire moon out of Earth's orbit and into deep space.
Exactly. The 311 inhabitants of Moonbase Alpha become unwilling interstellar voyagers on this massive, uncontrollable ship. It's a survival story, an exploration epic, and a philosophical journey all at once. Yet behind this high-concept premise was a production story that was just as chaotic and unpredictable as the Alphans' journey through the cosmos.
And the story of how it even got made is a perfect example of that chaos. It didn't start as Space 1999. It was born from the ashes of another show by the legendary Jerry and Sylvia Anderson, UFO.
Right. They were planning a second season of UFO, but their financer, ITC Entertainment, and its head, Lou Grade, had a new mandate. He told them the new season had to be set primarily on the moon. This fundamentally changed the concept, so the Andersons decided to just start fresh.
This is where the power dynamics really come into play. Jerry Anderson pitched the new idea to an ITC executive in New York, Abe Mandel. His pitch was simple and dramatic. Let's blow up the moon. Mandel loved it, but then came the classic executive notes. Lou Grade insisted on casting American leads to guarantee a sale to a U.S. network.
Which is how they ended up with the husband and wife team of Martin Landau and Barbara Bain, famous from Mission Impossible. Sylvia Anderson strongly objected to this casting, which created friction right from the beginning. It's a familiar story we've seen before: creative vision clashing with the commercial realities of transatlantic co-productions.
And their vision was ambitious. Jerry Anderson wanted to create something that felt real, a fully contained lunar city set 25 years in the future. He wanted credible, high-quality visual effects that would be, in his words, superior to Star Trek. He didn't want cheap or repetitive models. He was aiming for a cinematic experience on the small screen.
And the crown jewel of that visual ambition was, without a doubt, the Eagle transporter.
Absolutely. It's one of the most iconic ship designs in science fiction history, right up there with the Enterprise or the Millennium Falcon. And it came from the mind of Brian Johnson, a visual effects veteran who had worked on 2001.
Johnson's design philosophy was fascinating. He was directly influenced by the moon bus from 2001, but wanted to make something that looked, as he put it, nicer by adding bits of plastic kit and girdering stuff all over it. He saw the Eagle as a workhorse, a thoroughly utilitarian spacecraft. Its original name was even the MTU, for Multiple Transportation Unit.
It's like the pickup truck of space. It's not sleek and aerodynamic because it doesn't need to be in a vacuum. It's all function. The design started with what Johnson called a grasshopper shape, which just sort of grew. It had this incredible open girder work inspired by a Maserati birdcage sports car aesthetic.
And the modularity, that was genius. The central pod could be swapped out for different purposes. A passenger module, a cargo platform, a winch. This wasn't just a cool visual, it was baked into the storytelling. You could instantly understand the mission based on which pod the Eagle was carrying. That's brilliant design.
It's a perfect example of technical detail serving narrative. Johnson and his draftsman, Michael Lamont, even faceted some of the spherical elements simply because they would look more interesting photographically. They were thinking about how it would film from day one. It was a masterpiece of practical effects built for the camera, and it's a huge reason the show still looks so good.
But filming those beautiful models became a nightmare. This brings us back to that tiny show-threatening flaw. The effects team filmed for 6 straight weeks and came back with 0 usable footage. 6 weeks!
That's incredible. The cost must have been astronomical. They finally discovered the problem was a dragging break in one of the film magazines, which caused fluctuating exposures and distorted the image density on the film. A tiny mechanical issue that cost thousands and put the already ambitious production schedule into a tailspin.
And that was just one problem. The production was scheduled for 10 days for the pilot. It took 15 months to film the first series. Britain at the time was facing coal shortages, which led to a mandatory 3-day work week and power outages. They had to run Pinewood Studios on generators.
On top of these external pressures, you had this internal strategic friction. The creative team was in the UK, but all scripts and outlines had to be sent via telex to ITC in New York for approval. This process was agonizingly slow. It eroded creative momentum, and it led to major conflicts. Head writer Christopher Penfold eventually quit over the constant delays and interference.
You also have the stars, Landau and Bain, who had significant creative oversight. Their demands clashed with the executive demands from New York, putting the Andersons and the production team in the middle of a transatlantic tug-of-war. The pressure was so intense that on one episode, The Infernal Machine, the visual effects director got so frustrated with a large model that refused to film properly that he just destroyed it on set.
It's a classic case study in production management breakdown. You have logistical hurdles, technical disasters, and a fractured chain of command spanning an ocean. It's a miracle they produced anything, let alone a show with such a distinct and memorable first season.
Which makes the story of Season 2 even more fascinating. Because after all that struggle to create this moody, philosophical, almost Kubrickian science fiction show, the network decided to change everything.
Totally. Ratings had started strong but dropped off, partly because affiliates kept preempting it for sports. So for the second season, ITC brought in an American producer, Fred Freiberger, with a clear mandate: Americanize the show and make it more action-oriented to boost ratings.
And the changes were drastic. The tone shifted completely. The introspective, existential dread of Season 1 was replaced with more straightforward action plots. The dialogue was simplified. The sets and music were redesigned to be brighter and more upbeat.
And most notably, they introduced a new main character, Maya, a shape-shifting alien. The idea was to add a Spock figure, an outsider who could drive stories and appeal to a broader audience. It was a calculated move to inject more traditional sci-fi tropes into the show's unique formula.
This created two completely different shows under one title. Season 1 is this heady, slow-burn psychological journey. Season 2 is a monster of the week space adventure. It's a perfect example of a narrative schism where the creative vision and the commercial strategy diverged so sharply that they split the show and the fan base in two.
The great irony is that it didn't even work. The changes alienated many of the original fans who loved the first season's unique tone, and it failed to regain the ratings momentum. The show was canceled after the second season. Plans for a third season or even a Maya spin-off just fizzled out.
And yet, here we are, talking about it decades later. Despite the production chaos, the creative battles, and the uneven tone between seasons, Space 1999 has this incredible, enduring legacy. Why?
I think a huge part of it is the sheer quality of the production design. As we discussed, the Eagle is timeless. The lavish sets, the detailed miniatures, shooting on film, it all gave the show a weight and texture that holds up remarkably well. It truly bridged that aesthetic gap between the TV sci-fi of Star Trek in the 60s and the cinematic revolution of Star Wars in 1977.
The core premise is also just so compellingly bleak and original. It's not about bold exploration, it's about accidental survival. It taps into a sense of cosmic loneliness and existentialism that few shows, even today, are willing to explore. Some critics at the time found the mystical forces and ambiguous plots dated, but for many fans, that was the appeal.
And that appeal is clearly still alive. There's a documentary that just came out this year, 2025, called The Eagle Obsession, which reunited surviving cast members and really showcased the deep cult following that still exists. The show's flawed, ambitious, and utterly unique vision created something that, for all its problems, was unforgettable.
It leaves you with this great question. In television, what creates a lasting legacy? Is it perfect execution and mass market appeal? Or is it a singular, even flawed vision that resonates so deeply with a core audience that they keep it alive for generations? Space 1999 is a powerful argument for the latter.